Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to present how we can quickly provision Contrail Service Orchestrator in SD-WAN functionality using Postman, Jenkins, and the Git. So basically, Contrail Service Orchestrator is a full-blown SD-WAN solution from Juniper Networks. In this video, I'm not going to talk about its rich SD-WAN uh, set of functions. I'm just going to talk how we get to the point where SD-WAN solution can be applied. So let's get started and let's set a stage for um, what SD-WAN is about. So I'm going to use a very simple example with hub and spoke topology. Obviously, CSO supports full mesh as well. So we have a tenant. That tenant has two sites. Those two sites want to communicate bidirectionally. For that, we use universal CP device uh, from Juniper, which is NFX 250. On NFX 250, CSO is going to push a virtual SRX, which is a next generation firewall from Juniper Networks. And basically, through VSRX, secure tunnels will be established to the cloud hub, and secure communication will be established between the client sites. Obviously, this being a CSO solution, it's all about traffic flows, and how traffic can be manipulated to use certain paths, to prefer certain paths than the others. But that is all SD-WAN, which we are not going to cover in this video. That is what we are going to leave for some other video. What is important here to say that we are going to ZTP NFX 250s and get from a completely blank or erased devices to the fully provisioned a solution. So let's quickly just revisit where we are. So we have a tenant. Then tenant have some sites, two sites in this example. We are going to call them NFX2 and NFX4. Tenant has clients. They want to communicate securely. For that, we are going to use universal CP devices, NFX 250s. Obviously, that communication needs to happen via some kind of IP network, whether that's LTVP network or unsecure network like internet. We have links, usually more than one, that connects end device CP devices to the uh, to the underlying network. We obviously, because we are using in this example hub and spoke topology, we will have these flows to go via SRX 4200, a cloud site, but that is not important at this point. Obviously, we need brains for this solution is a CSO. CSO can be on-prem or live on the cloud. In my case, I have CSO installed on AWS. CSO also needs connectivity to the underlying network so that it can orchestrate NFX 250s and SRX 4200. As CSO will be pushing through ZTP process VSRX, which is Juniper routing and security device. It's a next generation firewall that can manipulate flows, that can look into uh, what kind of applications are being used by the clients and so on. And this is it. We have spoke sites, we have hub sites. So let's get started. There will be some more windows, but somehow let's try to organize these things in coherent groups. So where do we start basically? So as I said, we are going to use for this exercise, we are going to use Postman, and we are going to use Jenkins and the Git. So kind of we are going to present a full continuous integration uh, task. So let's start with the Postman. So no, let's start with the with the CSO basically. So I have window open. So here I have only one tenant provision. So how would I go and about provisioning a tenant basically? Usually what I do, I go to tenants. I have this nice web UI. I basically need to follow a certain workflow to get me to the point where I have a tenant. But more importantly, I'm going here through web UI from one step to another. So I'm following a certain workflow. But when I come to the end, what my browser is doing, it is going to fire a REST API call towards CSO. So instead of doing this via web UI, what I can do, I can capture that REST API call once it's done, and then save it in the Postman. So as I have these workflows to do certain things to, for example, onboard the tenant, onboard the site, add Cloud Hub, add spoke sites, and so on and so forth, I can create collections in the Postman. What is interesting about collections and why they come handy is that basically, if you look, for example, in the simple task, configure SD-WAN spoke site, if I look at the body of my REST API call, what I can do here, I can change values with variables and save these variables per collection. So if I look here, what I'm doing is I'm saving key and value pairs. And what Postman does very well is it takes complexity away. So it leaves me to concentrate on key value pairs and all JSON syntax and semantics, that's all taken care by the Postman. So basically, once I'm happy, once I have this call and I have my variables, everything replaced with the variables, I can save these REST API calls in this format. And then what I can do, I can go either execute every step one by one, or I can use a runner and execute them basically in sequence. What Postman is also good is that gives us a flow control, and also it gives us that with a little bit of JavaScript code, we can basically populate some of these variables dynamically. Um, as you can see here, with very little code, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get from CS to query CSO to give me job ID. So when I start one task within CSO, that task may last, for example, a few minutes, depending on the task. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to query CSO and ask, are you done? And once CSO tells me that the job has been done successfully, then I can move on to the next job. So that is how I'm going to organize that these steps are executed, not by putting some absolute time between them, but just waiting for one step to finish for the next to start. So this is what I'm saying here. While job is in progress, set next request to itself. If it's success, move to the next task. So you get the gist. Once I'm happy with my collection and the variables, what I do here is I can export and save the collection. So for example, save it to my local hard drive, my local repository for on my laptop, and never again do I need to open these files. This is all taken care by the Postman. So this is under Git control. And why is it under Git control? Not only because of the version control, it is also because the Jenkins will be logging to my Git repository and executing Postman commands, or to be more precise, it will be invoking Newman and execute my tasks. I'm not going to save this right now, but this is how I would do it. And then once I'm happy with it, what I do, I just go to the to my collection, and I push this to the Git repository, central Git repository. In my case, it's a GitLab, but that's unimportant. I made a mistake there. So basically, that is how it's done. Now let's go and see what Jenkins is doing. So what's interesting about Jenkins is that I can have all these jobs, which are basically my collections, grouped together in the pipeline. So Jenkins offers this nice functionality called pipeline. And for example, if I want to see one pipeline that I have defined, let's see how it's very easy to configure basically. So what I'm saying here, I have stages. Then within each stage, I have steps. So some of these steps are like log in to GitHub to the Git repository. The next step is actually run the test. So here's the thing, I'm skipping one part. Basically, my whole video is based off video from Valentin Despa, a wonderful video. Please uh, watch it. I learned a lot from him. He's an expert on Postman, and he basically figured it out how to integrate this with Jenkins. I'm just reusing his stuff. So also obviously I will be using Newman, and Newman is a command line collection runner for Postman. So basically that is why in my Jenkins pipeline scripts I'm calling actually Newman to execute these tests. But all this stuff you will see from his video. So let's see. I have first task or workflow is to create a tenant. Then comes the interesting part. I'm saying create SD-WAN spokes, but do them in parallel. So we have two spokes, NFX2 and NFX4. So what I'm saying, run onboarding procedure in parallel. Once you are done with that, the last step will be to provision a basic firewall policy to enable communication between NFX2 and NFX4. So this is some logical flow of the collections that I have defined in Postman. So let's see how this works in practice. So let me show you actually quickly NFX2 and NFX4. So on NFX2, let's see virtual network functions that we have right now. So at the moment, we have JDM, which is a Linux container. This is like a lobby, welcoming lobby. Then we have vJuno 0, which is a control plane. But what is missing here is basically gateway router. We don't have a VSRX because VSRX is about to be spawned via ZTP. The same is true for VSRX. So on NFX2, I have some basic configuration that will enable me to contact phone home server. So I just need to be certain that I have connectivity to the activation server. And once that's done, we can see actually what's the status in the syslog messages, how this activation happens in real time. So let's monitor actually syslog server. So the message that I'm looking for is actually this one. Server return an error code. And why is that? Activation server. So basically I have connectivity to the activation server, but activation server does not know about NFX2. Part of the workflow is to activate this device. So we will be through web UI, we can enter certain codes so that we can securely activate this device. Everything for that, all these codes are stored in my collections. So server currently is returning an error code, which is a good thing. So let me go now to the job, and let's start this job and see what happens. Build now. And here is how Jenkins starts this job. It first fetches things from the Git repository. Also, it needs to install on the fly dependencies for Newman. And this is the first task that it is creating. It says, create a tenant. So the first process is to create a tenant, and let's see in monitor jobs what's happening. So if I go to the monitor job functionality of CSO, I see that creation of the tenant is in progress currently. Okay, and now I'm querying also CSO every 2 seconds. I'm saying, tell me when you are done, because we want to progress from one stage to another stage. So let me also open another window. So we will actually see how these things get populated automatically. So the current job is creating SD-WAN tenant. Okay, so we can hear that SD-WAN tenant has appeared. It's still in the process of creation. We will see that there is no sites associated with this tenant at the moment. So if I go and look for its sites, they should be empty. Yeah, no sites at the moment. So let me somehow organize these windows so that we can at the same time monitor Jenkins and what's happening with the sites. Obviously, I will be speeding up this video just to skip the boring part while we are waiting something to happen. Actually, what we also would be good to see, but if I could somehow organize these windows to show us, so this progress and hold on, progress with the sites. So this is in progress, and this guy is doing his thing. So it's just too many things to watch at the same time. So Let me see if I can do it this way. Tenant creation is success. That's good. And we already see that hub is being added. Here we go. Hub is being added. Hub is already provisioned, so we are not doing that in this during this workflow. So next tasks are here. What's happening is create SD-WAN spoke sites. So we are now creating NFX2 and NFX4, and we can see that it's doing it in parallel. So the next phase is to configure NFX spoke sites. So configuration is in progress. We can see that here. Configuration of NFX2 and NFX4 is in progress. We see things appearing on the screen magically. We are not seeing what's happening in the background, but once ZTP starts, actually stage one config onboarding kicks in, we'll see a lot of traffic actually going towards NFX. This screen will just go white. Success. Okay, we have two successes. We see that both sites are configured and stage one config is about to be pushed now. Bootstrap is in progress. So the second message is my message, but the first message is from the CSO. I'm querying CSO all the time to tell me where it is, what its current state is regarding to the jobs. And ZTP has just kicked in for NFX2. ZTP has just kicked in for NFX4. And we are seeing what's happening. Gateway VSRX creation is in progress. So what that means is that we can actually see that CSO started to push a QCOW2 image to both NFXs. So let me quickly go here. We'll stop this for the moment and see what we have in var third party CSP gateway router. And we can see now that VSRX image is being loaded onto NFX, both NFXs. We're just looking at one. So this will take a little bit of time. Let's check the second one. Okay, we are seeing here also this one is being loaded. So I'm pushing this all the way from CSO remotely onto these two boxes via the ZTP procedure. You can see that I'm constantly every 2 seconds I'm querying CSO to give me status of its current job. Let's see where we are with almost there. So let's see, there will be a message telling us that the gateway router has been instantiated. It will still take a little bit of time for gateway router to come up to boot, but that process should happen now any minute, any second. Let's check on the status of the VSRX. So the gateway router has been just spawned. It is still down, it's booting up, but it's there. So let's just see how we started basically uh, with no, with no cannot find that now probably show virtual. Okay, here it is. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, we started with show virtual network functions. There was no gateway router here. Now what we can see is we see gateway router. It's still down because it's booting up. Let's check what's happening on this device. Yep, we have another gateway router. They're both booting up at the moment. So we just need to wait for them to come up. Also, what we can do to make things a little bit more interesting is we can ping gateway router. Let's do that. Okay, one of the gateway routers is up. We should see gateway router spawned. Here it is. We can ping it. So now what will happen, CSO will configure all the tunnels and enable the secure connection between the two sites. Now, when we know that gateway router is spawned, we are going to stop this ping. But what we are going to do, we are going to start this ping, which is we are going to ping actually the other end of this connection. So these are our clients. So we have two clients connected to the NFX 250, each per site, one per site. And because still configuration of the VSRX is in progress, pings are not available at the moment, but we'll leave this ping because at the end, our last job is to configure what we call an intent policy. And in intent policy, it's a super simple policy. I'm saying allow bidirectional configuration between site NFX2 and site NFX4. So that is the last step, if you remember, in our job that Jenkins will execute. Gateway router is going through different stages now. department configuration currently is in progress. When we onboarded Tenant, we have created several departments. So this is now being configured on the LAN side of the NFX or gate router. So this is what will enable clients to reach their destinations. Let me see, actually, probably I got disconnected or no. I'll start another set. I don't know why this ping has, currently there is no response. Okay. Okay, the job has moved internally onto start install default trusted certificate. So we are nearing the end of ZTP. The same is happening on the other NFX. Start install default trusted certificates in progress. We should soon see we should soon see both tasks ending and going to the last task, which is to configure an intent policy to allow communication, bidirectional communication between NFX2 and NFX4 between actually two sites. One job is done. So one ZTP, I think, is a success. We'll just need to wait for the status update on monitoring jobs. So the other one, Jenkins is still continuing with the other job before switching to the last job, which is to provision an intent policy. So ZTP for NFX2 is a success. ZTP for NFX4 is a success, just happened right now. And the last job is to configure the intent policy. Deployment of the policy is happening right now. And here we go. The pings are going between the two sites. Let's wait to see the official end to this task and job. Okay, this is it. Finished success. Our workflow has been completely executed. The policy has been deployed successfully. We see that pings are working between the two sites, so I can obviously ping the other one. Yes, pings are working fine. Status on of all three boxes is provision, provision, provisioned. So this concludes our video on provisioning of NFX devices and spawning VSRX on them for SD-WAN scenario in hub and spoke topology. In next videos, we will be concentrating more on SD-WAN functionality. So thanks for watching, and I hope you find this useful.